Sanjay, and in this video we are going to solve Leetcode problem number 88, which is merge sorted array. Now let's see what this problem says. So you are given two integer arrays nums1 and nums2, and they are sorted in non-decreasing order, and two integers m and n, representing the number of elements in nums1 and nums2 respectively. So what does it mean is, so we have two arrays nums1 and nums2. In nums1 we have m elements, in nums2 we have n elements. Now merge nums1 and nums2 into a single array in non-decreasing order. The final stored array should not be returned by the function, so we don't have to return anything from this function, but instead be stored inside the array nums1. So our result will be stored in nums1 only, and we don't have to return anything. To accommodate this, nums1 has a length m plus n, where first m elements denotes the elements that should be merged. So we can see from this example that we have nums1 and nums2, and in nums1 the length m equal to 3, means we have 3 elements which needs to be processed, and these other elements are the elements where we have to accommodate the element of nums2. Means this element, this 3 elements will be the elements from nums2, but we have to arrange them in such a way that it should be in non-decreasing order. So to accommodate this, nums1 has length m plus n, where the first n elements denotes the element that should be merged, and the last n elements are set to be 0 and should be ignored. So we have to ignore these elements because the elements which will be coming in this area may be from nums1 or nums2, has a length of n. So yeah, that's what the problem is. Now let's see from the example. In nums1 we have 1 2 3 0 0 0, and it has the valid elements are 3, and in nums2 we have 2 5 6, where the length is n equal to 3. Now the output should be the merged element from this array and this array, and that should be stored in nums1 only. So we don't have to return any explicit array, but it should be processed in nums1 only. So yeah, there is a second example. Nums1 equal to 1, where m equal to 1, and nums2 equal to empty, so n equal to 0. So there is only one element, so we did not have to do anything, and only one will be stored here. And in the third example we can say nums1 equal to 0 and m equal to 0, nums2 equal to 1 and n equal to 1, means there is only one element which is on nums2. So we would store nums2 element in nums1. Okay, so from the example we can see that we have two arrays, nums1 which has 6 elements, but the valid elements are only 3, m equal to 3, and nums2 has only 3 elements. So we have to process these two arrays in such a way that after our processing, nums1 element will be 1 2 2 3 5 6, which is the total number of valid elements, 3 plus 3, and they are in ascending, means non-decreasing order in nums1. So in the example 2 we can see that if nums1 has only one element and nums2 has no element, then we have to return as 1. And in example 3 we can see that if nums1 has no element, m equal to 0 means no element. So here we can see that there is one element 0, but this is for the element which is coming from nums2. Now let's see how we can solve this problem. So for solving this problem, the solution which comes to our mind is whatever elements we have on the end of the arrays are the maximum numbers in this arrays. So we just need to compare these two elements first and see which is greater. So here 6 is greater, we would assign 6 to the last index. Then we would check for 5 and 3. Now which is greater? 5 is greater. So we would assign 5 to this index. Now we will see which is greater in 3 and 2. Now 3 is greater. So we would assign 3 in this index. Now we would check for 2 and 2. Now which is greater? Both are equal. So in this case we would check, we would process this 2 and we would store this 2 in this position. Now we would check for 1 and 2 and check which is greater. Since this 2 is greater, so we would assign this 2 in this place. Now we have only 1 is left, so 1 will come in this place. So yeah, this is what our algorithm is. Let's see how we can solve it programmatically. So for coding the solution, what we need to do is, first we need to check whether nums2 is null or not. In case if nums2 is null or nums2 has no elements, we don't have to do anything, because we just have to process nums2 element by comparing with nums1. But since we don't have any element, we don't have to compare anything. So if nums2 dot length nums2 equal to null, or nums2 dot length equal to 0. So we don't have to do anything, we would simply return. So this is the first step. Now what is the second step? We have to take 3 variables. One is for the valid elements of nums1, second for the valid elements of nums2, and third for the total number of elements for nums1. So int I equal to m-1, int j equal to n-1, and int k equal to nums1 dot length -1. So why we are using -1 here? Why we are not using the total number of element, which is nums dot length? Because we will start processing for the end element of nums1. Okay, now we would use one while loop. So we would run this while loop till the time we have the valid indexes, which is I and j. So now we need to compare nums1i with nums2j. So let's do that. So nums1i, if nums1i is greater than or equal to nums2j, in that case what we need to do is we will have to assign nums_k with nums1i. Okay, so while we are assigning, we also have to decrement nums_k and nums1, k and I. So this is the first condition. The second condition, let's see if nums1i is less than nums2j. So in that case what we need to do is we would assign nums1k with nums2j. But here also we have to decrement nums_j, because since we are processing j, nums2j, we don't need to process that element again. So yeah, this is the second step. Now what is the third step? In third step, what we can do is, let's say if we have only the elements in nums2j and we don't have valid elements in nums1j, or all the processal of nums1j is nums1i is completed, but the processing of nums2j is still left. So for that case we have to introduce one more while loop, which will be for j. So here nums1k minus minus equal to nums2j minus minus. So while processing, we will also decrement the counter of j. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see if our code is running. Okay, so this would be nums1 dot length. Yeah, so this is running for a sample test case. Now let's see if it's passing all the test cases. Awesome, so this is passing all the test cases. Okay, so now let's talk about the time and space complexity of this problem. So since in this while loop we are just iterating all the elements of nums1 and nums2, and the total number of elements in nums1 is m and total number of elements in num2 is n. So this will be order of m plus n, and here we are just processing the remaining elements of nums2. So yeah, this will be order of n. So the total time is complexity will be order of m plus n plus order of m. So we can say this will be total order of m plus n, and we are not using any extra space, so the space complexity will not be here and it will be order of 1 only. I hope this is clear. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see some more videos.